I'm joined here by Keith Comstock, the Rangers minor league rehab coordinator, and here filling in as the pitching coach, the acting pitching coach for the Rough Riders with Jeff Andrews on vacation this weekend. How difficult is it for you to switch over from focusing on the rehab out in Arizona to game situations and managing a pitching staff on an actual team?
Well, the good thing is Jeff is extremely obsessed with being organized. So as soon as I walk into this room, everything is planned out every day of pitching, raw size, who's going where and what. So that part of it, Jeff takes care of, and it's good. So, but I enjoy it. I love getting back in the action. I get a chance to not just pick up Jeff, but there's times I'll go to Myrtle and do the vacations in Myrtle too. But I have to prep myself before I come, as far as maybe reading my reports of the pitchers before I go into that town to know what roles are in and stuff like that. But I still have to keep in touch with my rehab. So I actually have to do both jobs while I'm here because the rehab's obviously something that's really important. I have to keep my ear on that as well.
Is it nice getting away every now and then? It must be kind of a strange place out there in Arizona once all the guys report to the short season teams and rookie ball, things like that.
Well, we have the extended, and usually it's the young kids, the real young kids, the green kids, the kids that are fresh into pro ball. At first, you have to get through a little depression that everybody got left behind kind of scenario. But from that point on, it's baseball's business just like everything else. And that's the way the staff members down there treat it. We have the same kind of mentality as you would if you go to an affiliate, And
as far as your work here, you said Jeff Andrews really lays out who should pitch when and the schedule. But do you get to put your own touch, your own flair on what they're doing here today? Saw some of the pitchers taking ground balls at short, and you guys were throwing the football around a little bit earlier today.
Yeah, those are just things as far as conditioning that these guys know we do in rehab. Football Saturday passes. As far as us hitting ground balls to pitchers at shortstop, it's for them to remember how athletic to be, and also to remember that it's not as easy to catch a ground ball as you might think. So as far as our bad body language, when an error happens, I think it puts into their head, you know what? And I do fly balls in center field too. I like these guys to, understand that what you might think is easy is difficult. And their response is, well, they practice this stuff all the time. Well, we practice PFPs and you still make mistakes. So I think it's just good for both ways. It kind of catches two birds with one stone.
Here with Keith Comstock, and I want to check in with you about a number of guys in the Ranger system who've had some injury issues this year. First on this roster, starting with the big league rehabber, Joakim Soria, pitched in his first game in over a year and a half just a couple days ago here on Thursday. What did you see from him in that outing?
Well, I saw someone who was really controlled considering how much adrenaline he had. Those butterflies that kind of work around. He hadn't pitched in a year, no matter what level you're pitching at. It doesn't matter. When it's the first time you haven't pitched in a year and a half, you're going to have some goosebumps going, and you're going to have adrenaline flowing. It could be out of control, but I thought he did a nice job of controlling everything, staying in his delivery. I was really happy for him because the last time we almost had him out, and he pulled a pec muscle, so I was really happy to be pain-free with him. So,
and he said he needs to probably be able to pitch on back-to-back days at least once before he's really ready for the big leagues. How long will that process take to get him to that point? It'll be
that. It's funny you say that because Walk is a big grown man, and he could sit down with us and plan out his pitching, which he did. He's got his thing all drawn up where he's going to be, and back to back is part of that program before he goes back up to the big leagues. He knows how important that is, and sometime during the next week or so when he starts making like he'll go to Arizona and pitch in Arizona after Sunday. He'll pitch in Arizona on Wednesday, and then he'll make his Round Rock gig, and then during his Round Rock gig, he's got it planned out where he'll go back to back there.
Next, I want to talk a little bit about Justin Miller, who's no longer officially a rehabber on this team, joined the active roster. He gave up runs in 4 straight outings, but last night, stellar stuff from him. Struck out the side on sliders there in the 9th inning. As far as what you were able to see, do you feel like he's 100% in talking to him? How close is he to being where he was a couple years ago?
Well, there's a hidden adage in rehab where you really don't see anybody the following year out of rehab. It's the next year after that they really start putting things together. Wilmer Font comes into mind where he's put things together, where he had that instruction league. Justin didn't have an instruction league or a spring training to prepare for his outing. He went right into the thing. And when we see guys do that, it usually takes them that season to kind of figure out all the kinks and get reworked with again. Jeff's noticed some things in him staying on his slider a little bit longer. So he gets an ability to, now he's in a point where other pitching coaches get to work with him and start putting the little pieces together. When Justin first got here, I'm sure controlling the running game, baseball in itself, it speeds things up. And so I'm sure things were running real fast for him. And, my conversation with him when I got here was, slow things down a little bit and quit taking your focus strictly on just pitching and throwing like we do in rehab, because your game's got to open up now.
One thing I've talked about with a number of the guys here and some of the coaches as well is dealing with adversity in the minor leagues before you get to it at the major league level. Is there, with a guy like Justin, for example, who seemed really close to the Arlington level the way he pitched a couple years ago in Frisco, is there a value for him having a big-time health setback earlier in his career before he makes the majors, so he knows how to go through that process and he's maybe a little more mentally steady once he does get to the majors?
I think there's a lot to be said for that. Yeah, I think that when guys come into rehab, unfortunately, who wants to go to rehab? Nobody wants to have to go to rehab, but when they do, and when they get over that initial depression of being in rehab and having their arm in a sling, about halfway through rehab, they start realizing that their bodies are changing. They're bigger, they become stronger, character starts coming into play, personality starts to leave, they start pitching with character and less with personality. Decisions are starting to be made with character, so we start seeing those kind of things, and by the time they get to me, a lot of things have been changed in their life, and in pitching in the rehab, I can work with them, but to really get them ready to go out into the system and to pitch again. I can't do too much for fear of I don't want to hurt them again. So we just want to get them ready so that when they out of rehab, first of all, they are 100%, stronger than they ever have before, but really ready to be worked with now.
Here with Keith Comstock, and I think that slides us into another guy I want to ask you about, Cody Buechele, who's out in Arizona. Had a really tough start to the year here and trying to work out his command issues there. What have you guys been doing with him, and how is he coming along? Where is he in his progress to hopefully make it back where he can pitch on the mound at a competitive level again?
Well, first of all, it's really hard to put a timetable, when someone develops these kind of control issues. Nowadays, it's control issues, but the bottom line is IPS. And the fortunate thing for these guys is when they do, they have someone that's been through them, which I went through them for a year and got released because of them and was still able to put 17 years of pitching after that. So it's a tough process, and what you have to do, you have to realize what is a passion in your life all of a sudden turns into an obsession in your life. And then you want an explanation. Why is this happening? And why is it happening to me? How did it happen? Where did it happen? I don't get it. I don't know why. Why can't I throw this ball here like I've done so many times before? And so my point to them is we can't look for an explanation because there is none. It's a lot like food poisoning. You don't know how you got it until you start throwing up, then you have it. So there is no explanation for it. So we just try to find an answer and a result. And for me, when we're doing this, it's a big, long process as far as slowing everything down again, because there's hiccups in your arm's path. There's hiccups in your release point. And in order to fix it, when I fixed mine, and this is what I draw off of, I had to retrain my arm again. And so I had to throw it, and I equate it to a treadmill. So I had to take my arm speed down to a 2. And then I went to a 3, and then I went to a 4, and then I went to a 5, and then I went to a 6, and then if there's a hiccup at 6, then I went back to 5. And I cured it until I stayed with 6 until it was done, and then I went to 7, 8, 9, introduced my breaking ball at 9, 7 or 8. Now, once I felt I had an arm speed at 7 or 8, then I started introducing everything else to it, so that my arm speed was off of my fastball arm speed. And that's where Cody's at today. He's probably at a 6 or 7 arm speed. And the distance to the plate is probably about 58 feet. And so we're at 2 more feet and 4 more gauges of the arm speed. Well, and I know it's quick here, but just that point, everybody on this field at some point has some kind of IPS in them. They just don't like it. Some guys can't throw pitch outs. Some guys can't walk a guy intentionally. They just can't do it. They can't go from a 94 to a 70 or to an 80 mile an hour fastball. They're somewhere along the line, if you take a picture, some guys can't throw to first base, and so you'll see a comebacker, they'll run it to first base. That's how they figured out this problem. So we all have it, and we all have to deal with it, and they all do. So, and I hope Cody, as far as timetable, Man, I wish I could give you one. That's strictly up to Cody.